The GPS said I had arrived, but there was no forest in front of me. There was a city that shouldn't exist. I froze inside the car, my hands locked on the steering wheel while the device repeated in its neutral voice. "You have arrived at your destination." I swallowed slowly. According to Google Maps, I was standing in the middle of a dense forest. No roads, no buildings, nothing. But right in front of me, there was a perfectly paved avenue lined with palm trees placed with almost artificial precision. In the distance, modern mansions rose with massive glass windows reflecting the gray afternoon sky. I looked back at my phone screen. Only trees. An endless ocean of green with no interruptions. I lifted my eyes again. Mansions. Luxurious. Immaculate. Occupied. That uncomfortable feeling crept in. The one that appears when your brain can't process what it's seeing because it contradicts everything it knows. "This doesn't make sense," I whispered. I started recording with my phone. First the satellite map, then I turned the camera toward the street in front of me. The contrast was absurd. The map showed untouched wilderness. The camera showed a high-end residential neighborhood straight out of an architectural magazine. The silence made everything worse. No traffic sounds. No dogs barking. No music coming from any house. Only the faint sound of wind brushing through the trees and something else. The unsettling sensation of being watched. My instincts screamed at me to turn around. But curiosity had always been my greatest weakness. I drove forward. The tires rolled smoothly across the flawless pavement as I crossed an entrance with no gates and no security booth. Just two white concrete pillars with built-in cameras that slowly rotated as I passed. It wasn't a sudden movement. It was slow, deliberate, like something was tracking me with its eyes. A chill ran down my spine. The houses were too perfect, gardens trimmed with surgical precision, windows polished to mirror shine. Luxury cars parked in open garages, spotless, every single one of them. But there were no people. Not a single one. "Hello," I whispered, as if someone could hear me through the car. I turned a corner and saw movement for the first time. A curtain slammed shut on the second floor of a white house. Then, in another home, a silhouette slowly stepped away from a window. It wasn't normal curiosity. It was surveillance. I slowed down. My heart pounded violently against my chest. I drove past a central park with brand new playground equipment, completely untouched. A swing moved slightly, even though the wind was barely blowing. I stopped the car. I grabbed my phone again, opened the browser, typed the name of the street I had just seen on a polished metal sign. No results. I tried the district name. Nothing. I searched property registries. Nothing. Not a single legal, commercial, or municipal reference. It was as if this place didn't exist to the rest of the world. The GPS let out a sharp beep. The screen flickered. The map restarted on its own. My internet signal disappeared for a few seconds, then returned, painfully slow. A strange pressure built inside my chest. That instinctive warning that appears right before something goes terribly wrong. I started the engine to leave. The car responded, but the GPS spoke again. Recalculating route. The screen displayed something that froze my blood. The road I had used to enter had vanished from the map. Only forest remained. Dense forest. Forest with no exit. "No, no, no, no," I whispered as panic slowly crawled up my throat. A soft knock hit the passenger window. I jumped in my seat. Slowly, I turned my head. A man was standing beside the car. I hadn't seen him approach. He wore elegant clothing, far too formal for such an isolated place. His expression was calm, but his eyes carried something different. Something tense. Something worried. I lowered the window slightly. "Are you lost?" he asked in a soft, almost friendly voice. "I think so," I replied, trying to sound normal. "My GPS brought me here, but this place doesn't appear on any map." The man looked at my phone screen. His face changed for just a second. It was almost invisible, but I saw it. Fear. He glanced around, as if making sure no one else was listening. Then he looked straight back at me. "Did you record anything?" My pulse skyrocketed. "Just the road," I answered. His jaw tightened. For the first time, his voice lost its calm tone. "You shouldn't have come here." A heavy silence fell between us. "Why?" I asked. The man took a deep breath, as if he were about to make a dangerous decision. He leaned closer to the window and whispered something that made the world feel like it stopped spinning. "Because this community was deliberately erased from every digital system on the planet." The air suddenly felt heavier. The GPS beeped again. The screen shut off completely. And just before I could say another word, I noticed that, in the distance, several people were slowly stepping out of their houses, staring directly at me. As if my presence was a problem they needed to solve. Aquí tienes la traducción al inglés de la Part 2, manteniendo tono cinematográfico, suspenso psicológico y narrativa fluida para storytelling viral. Clapperboard, the neighborhood that doesn't exist. Fire Part 2, the erased community. My first instinct was to start the car and run. But the GPS was dead. My phone's signal flickered like it was fighting to survive. And in front of me, those people kept slowly getting closer. They weren't running. They weren't shouting. They were just walking with a calmness that felt infinitely more terrifying. The man beside my window raised his hand, signaling me to stay calm. "Turn off the engine," he said softly. "I don't think that's a good idea," I replied, feeling adrenaline make my fingers tremble. His gaze hardened slightly. "Trust me, right now, it's the safest option." I looked around. There were at least 10 people watching from different parts of the street. Men, women, even a couple of teenagers. None of them looked surprised, just alert. Like they had experienced this before. I turned off the engine. The silence that followed was brutal. The man stepped back. "Step out of the vehicle," he said. I hesitated. Every horror story I had ever heard screamed inside my head. But I also knew something. There was no visible escape. I took a deep breath and opened the door. The air smelled too clean, too artificial, like the entire place was filtered. The group gathered slowly a few meters away. No one spoke. They just stared at me. The man extended his hand. "My name is Esteban." I stared at him before answering. "Daniel," I lied automatically. I didn't know why, but my instinct told me not to give my real name. Esteban smiled slightly, a smile that never reached his eyes. "Daniel, I need you to come with us. We have to explain some things before you make any impulsive decisions." "What decisions?" "The ones that could destroy this place." A chill ran down my spine. We walked toward one of the largest houses on the avenue. The other residents slowly dispersed, but I could feel their eyes burning into the back of my neck. The interior of the mansion was even more unsettling. Minimalist, perfect, silent. Screens embedded into the walls displayed graphs, maps, and codes I couldn't understand. An older woman with completely silver hair stood in front of one of the screens. She didn't even turn around when we entered. "We have an unplanned visitor," Esteban said. The woman sighed, as if confirming a bad premonition. Finally, she turned toward me. "How did you find us?" "My GPS," I replied. "I just followed a route." "That's impossible," she said. "Well, I'm here." They exchanged glances for several seconds. Something clearly didn't add up. The woman gestured, and one of the screens changed, displaying satellite images of the area. Only forest. Then she tapped another command. The image shifted to a thermal view, where, for a brief moment, I could see faint outlines of hidden structures beneath a kind of digital distortion. "This," she said, "is what the world sees." Then she pointed around the room. "This is what exists." I swallowed hard. "How is that possible?" Esteban crossed his arms. "We bought our invisibility." The silence that followed felt heavy. "I don't understand." The woman sighed. "We are people who, at some point, had too much power or too much information. Business executives," Esteban continued. "Scientists. High-level government officials. People who discovered what really happens with global surveillance. A knot tightened in my stomach. You hid. We liberated ourselves, the woman corrected. She walked toward a console and activated several screens simultaneously. They displayed satellite networks, tracking systems, mass surveillance algorithms. Every message you send, every search, every location, everything is stored, profiled, analyzed. I remained silent. Part of me wanted to deny it. Another part knew it didn't sound impossible. We created a completely isolated private network, Esteban continued. We block satellites, manipulate images, generate digital noise. To the world, this place doesn't exist. And you live here forever? The woman hesitated. That tiny gesture told me more than any answer. We can leave, Esteban finally said. But it isn't simple. Why? No one answered. The silence was enough. My eyes scanned the house again. Everything was perfect, but something felt wrong. Too controlled. Too ordered. How long have you been here? I asked. Some more than 10 years, the woman replied. A cold shiver ran through me. 10 years without outside contact. Controlled contact, Esteban corrected. At that moment, a child ran across the hallway chasing a ball. He couldn't have been older than 8. He stopped when he saw me, like he was looking at something exotic. Who is he? The boy asked. A visitor, the woman replied. Is he from a real city? The question hit me harder than expected. Yes, I answered. The boy smiled with fascination. Is it true there are buildings that touch the clouds? Something inside me cracked. A voice from another room called him, and he ran away. I looked back at the adults. That kid has never left this place, has he? Esteban avoided answering. The woman spoke softly. He is safe here. The word safe lingered in the air, ambiguous, unsettling. I took a deep breath. Listen, I understand what you're doing, but I need to leave. The atmosphere changed immediately. Not violently. Worse. It became calculated. Esteban slowly stepped closer. There's a problem with that. What problem? You recorded this place. My stomach dropped. I can delete everything. It's not that simple. The woman stepped forward. If you reveal our location, our protection disappears. Satellites, governments, corporations, they would all come. I'm not going to tell anyone, I said. Esteban held my gaze. We cannot rely on promises. The silence became suffocating. So, what do you want? The woman took a deep breath before answering. You have 2 options. My heart started pounding violently. First option, delete everything and undergo a verification protocol that will guarantee you can never reveal information about this place. What does that mean? Esteban answered without hesitation. Digital modifications and other more permanent measures. A cold wave ran down my spine. And the second option? The woman held my gaze with absolute seriousness. Stay here. What? New identity. Life without surveillance. Total security. But no return to the outside world. It felt like the air vanished from the room. That's the prison. Or a liberation, Esteban replied. My mind spun, trying to process everything. That's when something caught my attention. One of the screens flickered behind them. It showed a technical log. I only managed to read one line before they turned it off. Target located. GPS route executed successfully. My blood froze. Wait, I said slowly. What does that mean? No one answered. I looked at them one by one. My GPS didn't malfunction, did it? The silence became absolute. The woman closed her eyes for a second. Esteban finally spoke. No. The ground seemed to disappear beneath my feet. Then how did I get here? Esteban stared directly at me, emotionless. Because we made you come. Because we made you come. Esteban's words hung in the air like an impossible sentence to process. My breathing turned shallow, uneven. That's ridiculous, I said, though my voice sounded weaker than I expected. I just followed an address I found on an abandoned routes forum. The silver-haired woman slowly shook her head. You didn't find it, we planted it. A heavy silence fell across the room. What does that mean? Esteban walked toward one of the screens and activated it. A panel full of charts, profiles, and digital records appeared. Then he typed something into the console. My name appeared on the screen. My real name. A sharp radar hit my chest. No, that's not possible. He scrolled down. There were folders containing years of my life, organized with surgical precision. Browsing history. Deleted messages. Past locations. Private conversations. Posts I had forgotten even existed. Even drafts I never sent. Nausea twisted my stomach. How do you have all of this? The woman spoke with unsettling calm. Because the modern world turns every person into an open file, you just have to know where to look. My hands began to tremble. Esteban expanded another section. A complete psychological analysis. My fears. My frustrations. My behavioral patterns. My tendency toward extreme curiosity. We observed you for 2 years, he said. My heart seemed to stop for a second. We were searching for compatible profiles. Compatible for what? Esteban stared straight into my eyes. To invite the right people. I stepped backward. I never accepted anything. Not yet, the woman replied. The air felt heavier. How many people have you done this to? I asked. Esteban hesitated. That tiny pause confirmed I wouldn't like the answer. He activated another screen. Dozens of names appeared. Some crossed out. Others marked as integrated. My stomach tightened. And the crossed out ones? The woman answered quietly. They tried to leave. A freezing cold ran down my spine. What happened to them? No one answered. They didn't need to. I swallowed hard. I need to leave here now. Esteban sighed deeply. It's not that simple. Of course it is. I just need the road. Esteban slowly shook his head. The road exists, but it doesn't lead where you think. Panic began rising inside my chest again. That doesn't make any sense. The woman touched a panel. The wall behind us opened silently, revealing a hidden corridor. Come, she said. I followed them, feeling each step heavier than the last. The corridor ended in a dark room filled with turned-off monitors. Esteban powered several of them on at once. They displayed recordings. People arguing. People screaming. People running through the same avenue I had entered from. One person tried to jump into a car while other residents attempted to stop them. The recording cut abruptly. They tried to escape, the woman said. Did they succeed? I asked, though I already feared the answer. Esteban slowly shook his head. Leaving here means returning to a system that now believes you are digitally dead. My mind took a few seconds to process it. Dead? Esteban switched screens. I saw something that stole the air from my lungs. My social media profiles deactivated. My email deleted. My bank accounts frozen. Even employment records erased. While you were entering the community, he explained, we began the process. The world spun violently. You had no right. We gave you an opportunity for freedom, the woman replied coldly. That's not freedom. My voice echoed through the room. For the first time, Esteban showed something close to compassion. Daniel, the world out there already decided who you are, what you consume, what you think, where you go. Here, you can start over. Silence fell again. I stared at the screens. Then I remembered the child in the hallway. And him. I asked, will he ever be able to choose? The woman took a moment before answering. He will be safe here. That's not what I asked. Silence answered for her. Something broke inside me. For years, I had hated feeling watched, analyzed, categorized by algorithms. But this was another extreme. It was erasing the past to control the future. I took a deep breath. I want to see the exit, I said. Esteban hesitated, but finally nodded. We walked outside. The sun was beginning to set. painting the sky in orange and violet tones that contrasted with the artificial perfection of the place. They led me to the edge of the neighborhood. There, between the trees, was a narrow path. "That's the exit," Esteban said. I took one step toward it. Then another. My pulse thundered in my ears. "If you cross that point," he continued, "you will return to the outside world, but officially you won't exist. No identity, no records, no history." I stopped. I looked at the path. Then I looked back at the neighborhood. The houses slowly lighting up as night approached. People watching from a distance. The child looking through a second-floor window. A crushing mixture of fear and temptation filled my chest. "If I stay," I asked, "will I really be free?" The woman spoke from behind me. "You will be invisible." I stared at the path again. I had always feared disappearing among millions of people. But now I was facing the opposite fear. Disappearing completely. The wind moved the leaves around us. For a moment, everything went silent. Then I remembered something. My imperfect life. My mistakes. My memories. The people who knew me, even with my flaws. I took a deep breath and stepped toward the path. Behind me, I heard Esteban whisper, "I knew you would choose that." I kept walking. The forest slowly swallowed me. The path faded into mist. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out. Black screen. No signal. No apps. Nothing. I walked for what felt like hours until I finally heard the distant sound of cars. Lights. A highway. I stumbled out of the forest and fell to my knees on the asphalt, gasping for air. A vehicle stopped. The driver rolled down the window. "Are you okay?" I looked at him, trying to smile. "I think so. I just got lost." "Where did you come from?" I looked back at the forest. The mist covered everything. "I don't know," I answered honestly. The driver frowned. "Do you have identification?" I reached into my pocket. Nothing. No wallet. No documents. No working phone. Only my reflection in the car window, staring back at me like a stranger. The driver sighed. "Get in. We'll help you." I slowly entered the car. As we drove away, I looked through the rearview mirror. The forest looked completely normal. Empty. As if nothing had ever been there. I leaned my head against the seat, overwhelmed by a mixture of relief and loss. Because I realized something in that moment. The real world may watch you. It may analyze you. It may even try to define who you are. But disappearing completely may be the quietest way to lose everything.